Today, wanted to get specifically into disaster recovery plans, right? Or you might call it business continuation. I know I call it business interruption on my end.
Yes.
We talk so much and we kind of get in the weeds, but I wanted to do some high level type of what does that entail when it comes to your IT support or IT program?
Right. You know, it's funny because you did say about business interruption. So obviously, there's insurance for that.
That's right.
You know, so, these are things that people have to understand. So what can they tolerate on that interruption? And we actually, when we talk to clients, we actually ask them what their tolerance level is. Because with every tolerance, there's different level plans that need to be in place. So let's first say, what is a DR program and what does business continuity planning mean, right? So a DR program is two things. First off, there's a disaster where your data is stored. It's somewhere on a device somewhere that hasn't been backed up or properly maintained, and it crashes, right? So it could even be in the cloud. A lot of people do understand that. There's servers in the cloud, but if they don't check their business continuity plan or their disaster recovery plan of their cloud servers or their backup plans, they're not good.
And we talk about, so basically your business stops. Now the level of severity could be different, right? I don't know if you go from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10,
exactly,
depending on what it is. But before you how does that plan start? Like, because so many people, and again, insurance, right? I get called when things happen, reactive. I'm sure you do as well.
The reactive.
So much of the partnership and having valued partners in our businesses is being proactive.
Correct.
What would be, your opinion, the first thing to do when it starts to coming up with a DR plan?
Right. It's being proactive, meaning like understand, okay, if something happens, right? Data loss, data leakage, and what does it look like to recover that? All right, and what does that plan mean? So, like, even if it's just a basic to an Excel sheet somebody's been working on for 3 days with macros and all that kind of stuff, right? And you accidentally deleted the file. There's some basic things with actually in Excel you could recover it instantaneously, right? But then there's things like, okay, they deleted it and they didn't realize it till the next morning, and it's like completely gone.
Completely gone.
And then now they need to, go to their IT company, say, can you recover that file, right? So, and we might say, oh, that's not like a big deal, but
depending on who's working on that project,
exactly,
right? And what's the timeline on that
exactly,
RFP?
Exactly, and the amount of money that's spent on that.
Sure.
So that file recovered, having that instant being able to recover, that's very important. So that's just kind of like a little major hiccup disaster, right? But say that whole folder or project or whole database of information is gone, right? So how do they recover that and bring it back up? Or the server where they're connecting to in their ERP program they've been building actually crashes as well. How do they bring it back up? And then there's the one that's big on top of everybody's side, like cyber attacks.
Right.
Say they crash, they steal the data, they lock you out by ransomware, okay? How do they get that back? They got to go to a backup, recover it, and then they have to, before they bring that backup up, they got to make sure that they clear whatever it was so they don't destroy the backup.
So it doesn't go on both ends.
Right? That's the big thing. Now, the business interruption is that recovery time. What is their tolerance level? Like, build a mechanic, right? Probably systems goes down. He could probably do a day or two without it. But if you're a financial firm, hours and minutes can literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that recovery time is so much different, on how that would progress. And then there's that part that ties to the insurance. Say there's a major disaster, like the whole office is wiped out, all the computer systems and everything, and like a fire or something like that. What does that interruption period look like? How fast could that IT company spin up an environment in the cloud or where else to make your team be able to start working, right? And who's going to pay for all that cost to implement that? So that's where the interruption insurance comes in, where it has some kind of cost of effect where they could say, okay, this happens, at least we're covered. We're going to be able to pay the IT company for their instant response that they need to go do that. Now, if you don't have the right company involved to do that for you, you have no idea how that looks.
Well, when you start doing that stress test for companies, is all that upfront work part of the we call the on-rolling process for the new client? The
onboarding process. We call it the onboarding process, and we actually go through all those scenarios and what they currently have in place, and then we have the time that we take to implement what we're going to do. And those are the things that you need to ask. And people take it for granted. So they've been with their IT company for years, and they just think that
it's on and off. No, you have everything under control, right? Nothing's changed.
Under control. Nothing's changed.
But
then all of a sudden something happens, and they're like, "Oh crap!"
You become the most important person in the world.
But if you're a good IT company, they've been doing the stress test at least on a quarterly basis.
No panic, right?
But you can call a lot of them. And the funny thing is, if you can't call your current IT provider and say, look, what is our business continuity plan or disaster recovery plan? Can you send me a copy of that? If they say, okay, we'll get it to you in a week or so, you might want to rethink that. If they can't get it to you within 24 hours, realize that means if you do have a disaster,
it's going to take them a week.
It's going to take them a week to bring you back up.
They didn't plan, right? They didn't either fulfill that upfront promise or that upfront contract of working together. But it's so how would you or what do you recommend, as far as either is it semi-annually, quarterly, annually, as far as doing an ongoing stress test, recovery kind of simulated process for your clients?
Right. So what should happen is you should be meeting with your ID company on a quarterly basis, right? This, depending on the site, quarterly, biannually, annually, depending on what the needs are. But you should also be questioning, can you show me proof that you are doing this process, right? And there's actually solutions out there that will actually send screenshots every morning. It'll spin up and test and send it. We have that solution in place. Some clients do like to have that just nonsense.
So that's the most transparent way of doing it. It's actually the system telling us what's being done in the back end.
Yep, and you get a report in the morning. Okay, all good. Okay, so some people like that. Some people, it's too much email. They just want to know on a quarterly that it's been done. And then you get tested where maybe somebody calls and they lost a file and it wasn't recoverable. That would be your first sign that you need to investigate a little bit more. Because I hear this all the time. In conversations, even with you or friends or some people at even Fortune 500 companies, I went to my IT department, they couldn't recover it because they said it happened in the middle of the day and the backups only happen at night. Where in our infrastructure, we're taking snapshots every 4 hours.
Right. What's that level of that they can basically endure, right? If anything goes wrong, and kind of back into how they're building, how their process is set up.
Yeah. You only know as much as you know, and then you bring on the people that help you. But then there's all the other things that go on it, because realistically, your disaster is all about the preparation. All the preparation. Who looks at their homeowner's insurance? They look at it once a year when they have to do the renewal, right?
Oh, yeah, when the hurricane's coming.
The hurricane's coming, and then they're calling.
I get the call. They can't find it.
They can't find it.
They can't find it. Thank God they know my number. But it's true. It's kind of like, it's one of those things. We run into the same kind of parallel in our industries where you kind of wait till something happens, and then you want to have that conversation and do the research. Where so much stuff, and we do it in our businesses, is having that upfront work. Gives you that peace of mind for when a disaster happens.
Right. But even like you said, that peace of mind. So I think in your industry, and I'm not the expert in insurance, but you the 4-point inspection, for a home, right?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. People need to review that because things change. You can get discounts if you do certain things, and people don't know that. So you want to provide, I can tell you a funny story, real instantly. I just had a discount for strapping, right? I had no clue it existed, but you know what? Understanding that I could get that discount is having a provider like you that says, look, hey, you know what? Let's do a new 4-point. Hey, and then they come back and say, do the strapping. Strapping cost you $1,000, and now it's going to save you $800 a year. It's a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah, it's those little. It's really being in the game and providing the value and the proactive approach, which I think is the most important part in both their industries.
Yeah.
So the DR plan, disaster recovery plan, if your IT provider can't provide it to you, what your plan is in 24 hours. That's the red flag.
It's a red flag. It's a red flag if they don't really have a process in place. They're winging it. Okay.
Don't wing it.
Don't wing it.
Don't wing it with your IT provider
or your insurance.
Or your insurance agent.